find your passion, it ignites you as a person. You just feel awesome. Hello, what is going on? So one of our sisters, Lucy, she's a member of my Patreon, thank you so much, and she has a situation that's going on, and this is such a great point to bring up because in my 5 years of training, if somebody would have told me this, it would have made my classes so much better. Following this advice will get you more time on the mat, less injured, and more able to get more out of your training, which is huge, okay? This is it, all right? So basically, Lucy has a situation where she was in class, she was doing a technique, and her partner basically throughout the whole time they were in class kept on giving her like feedback of like, oh, do this, do that, trying to verbally help her get through the technique. But when it was his turn, he couldn't do the technique. So he was basically giving her instruction when he is a total noob and doesn't even know how to do it himself. Then they go on, you know, they're practicing double legs, and she gets slammed on the ground really hard, and then she's with another partner, and the other partner is gripping her gi sleeve so tight that it's kind of like he's pinching into her flesh and kind of like twisting it with the grip. So she's basically asking like, how can I do class and when is it appropriate to give my partner feedback? Like it's a martial art, so obviously there's going to be some bumps and bangs and bruises. When should I just, you know, let it be, and when should I be like, hey, look, buddy? So I'm going to explain this to you in a scale version and give you specific instances and examples from my own experience, and then let you know some options in order to communicate what you need to communicate and if it's worth letting go or worth communicating, because nothing is ever, you know, black and white. Everything is, there's always some variables and scales that are involved, all right? So So on our y-axis here, we have annoying, and as we go down, we're getting into the injury zone, and up on our, that's our y-axis, and then our x-axis, we have mindful, going all the way to aggro. Let me just write that down here, that way you can see it. All right, so let me give you one situation that is happening to Lucy, and that has happened to me plenty of times. It's a situation where your partner is giving you constant verbal feedback on everything that you're doing and is trying to help you through the technique. Now, this is because some people, there are different personality types, and some people like to talk, other people don't like to talk. Some people are genuinely trying to help you, and you know, if their tool is talking, then they're going to use whatever tool they know how to use in order to try to apply it to every situation. Like if your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, you know, this happens across like the spectrum of people, and what you need to do is some people actually enjoy being paired. If you have two people that like to talk and like to talk through things and you pair them together, they love it. Like one of my partners is like, oh my God, I just got paired with this like other partner and he loved to like talk through things, and so do I. So they were both talking it out, and they both enjoyed that. Now, if I'm with somebody who is less experienced than me in this particular instance, and basically my partner doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and I do, and they're trying to explain it to me when I already know what I'm doing, I just politely say, hey, look, like I'm just trying to figure this out on my own. You know, if I need any help, like I'll let you know, okay? I learn better if I figure it out on my own, which is very true because I don't know about you, but the lessons that I've learned and that have been ingrained in me are from the times when I had to struggle in order to learn them. Like I learned how to do a double leg and was told the entire time, hey, cut the corner, you need to cut the corner. But I had to fail like 200 times in cutting the corner until I finally figured out how to cut the corner. You know what I'm saying? So this would be under the annoying bracket, and mindful to aggro is like what kind of state your partner is in, because that's going to affect how you can communicate to them in the most effective manner. So if you're with somebody that's like chill, you know, they like are receptive, they're being mindful, you can explain it to them in a way that's like mirroring what their state is. Like to somebody that's mindful, I would say something like, hey, look, you know, I like to do techniques and figure it out on my own. If you tell them a couple of times and they're still not getting it and they're still like very persistent, then I would go with something like a little more direct. And what I like to do is say something like, hey, I'll insert a nickname here that's very applicable, and then I will insert the action that I want done. So let's say I have a partner and he will not shut up. I will be like, hey, Chatty Cathy, can you pipe down? Like I'm trying to do something here. Like that usually gets the sends the message across, like, you know, very well. So now we can go down the y-axis and we're getting from like annoying to injury. And also, you know, this is in response to somebody giving you feedback. And for me personally, I do not tell my partner feedback. I let them struggle, and I let them struggle to the point of like looking at me as if looking at me for an answer. At that point, I'll be like, hey, did you want help? And I ask that because I don't want to give unsolicited feedback, because that can be annoying. Like I don't want to intrude on, you know, I want to treat people how I want to be treated. If they want help, I'll ask them, and if they say yes, then I'll give them some help. And along those same lines, if I'm getting feedback from a person that is more skilled than me in that particular technique, I will take all the feedback. I will not tell them, hey, look, I'm trying to figure this out on my own. If a person more skilled than me is taking the time to give me feedback, I shut up and I listen, and I am thankful. All right. So it really depends on like if they know what they're talking about or not. Now we're getting into, let's say you are with a partner, and in the case of like Lucy's example, they are repeatedly grabbing, let's say, your sleeve and like pinching you, and it's, you know, it's a little annoying. Like it's gonna cause like a little bit of bruising, and it's annoying. What I usually like to do is I will give it, you know, like once or twice if it's like an off thing. But if I start to see it's every single rep, then I'll be like, I'll either take my sleeve and adjust it and put their hand on the sleeve in the way that won't pinch my flesh, or I'll give them a verbal cue. So you have two options here. You can either do it physically to physically communicate what you want to have communicated, or you can do it verbally and verbally communicate what you need to have communicated. So this would be like a pinch. Sometimes if you're doing a movement, you know, a knee will come down on your tricep, and that really, that can get annoying. All right.
Just parry it. Don't be a parry.
Yeah, it's good to feel that, because like obviously in a fight I'm gonna be hurt. Like I would have been.
No, you don't want to be hurt.
Well, I don't want to be hurt, but it's good to be able to fight through being hurt and to have like a poker face and not like let them know that you're hurt, because if they know that you're hurt, then
jump on it.
exactly. So it's good to like have that like
Circle, footwork, keep the distance, footwork. That's why your cardio is important.
Yeah.
If you can't move, then
Then
you're in
you're
trouble.
sitting duck.
Yes.
Moving down into what can be more of an injury type deal. So if you're a beginner and you're practicing something like breakdowns, or I'm sorry, if you're practicing something like takedowns, knowing how to break fall is super important, and you have a time period where you're developing specific muscles. So for example, you have to develop your neck muscles in order for your head to be stable enough to be able to keep on taking impacts and not smash the back of your head onto the mat. So if you're a beginner and your partner's being like super aggressive with takedowns, and you feel like an injury coming on because your body has not yet adapted and grown to the status that it needs to be in order for the takedown to be accomplished without you getting injured, I would definitely give the feedback of, hey, look, like, do you think you could, lighten up on the takedown, or can we do this a little bit slower? There's this there is this guy in Jiu-Jitsu history that basically Count Koma, I think his name is, which is basically like count of fight, I think. Count combat. And he says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And what he means by that is this isn't applicable to when you're live training, this is applicable to when you're drilling and learning the technique. Meaning, if you're watching a person do a technique, and if they can do it slowly and step by step and smoothly, then they're going to be able to speed that up in real time and be better at it and more proficient at it when it's time to roll. If you see somebody drilling and they're just trying to do it really fast, it's typically because they don't know what they're doing, and they aren't clear at the individual steps, so they just try to speed through that part in order to like avoid it. So slow, when you're drilling, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So I have no problem telling my partner to slow down, especially if it's going to prevent me from being injured, and it's actually going to help both of us learn the move. So this is probably like And then along those same lines, so again, if your partner's being mindful, you can say it in a way of like, hey, look, I find if I go slower through the technique, I can focus more on the individual pieces. Do you think we could slow it down? Because, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That would be a way. And the more aggro way to say it, if they don't get it, is like, hey, Speedy Gonzalez, you mind slowing your roll here? I'm trying not to smash my head on the mat. Now, another example when we're getting closer to injury is, so I was with a class partner and we were practicing leg locks, and my class partner just thought that he had to slam his shin like right between my legs in order to get a proper positional form on the leg lock. And it's not smashing your shin into the other person's parts that gets you a good leg lock. It is, making sure your knees are pinched. So after about 3 times, I was like, hey, you mind easing up there, because you're smashing your shin against like my lady bits. And they actually didn't get it. I was sore for a couple of days after that, because sometimes your partner, no matter how you explain it, they like don't get it. So yeah, sometimes you also have to deal with that. And the same thing goes with, like, let's say you're doing a cut across pass on a dude. If their stuff is like hanging off on their leg, you will cut right across that too. So it's, no matter what you have down there going for parts, like they're liable to get smashed, and you just gotta know how to say, hey, look, like, this is happening, do you mind, All right, now going on to this region down here, which is, this region down here is super, super, super important, because this is the most important thing of this entire video, is learning how to communicate this part right here when you are trying to battle, you know, avoiding getting injured because you see that something is going on here inside your body that is high risk, and you need to know how to communicate that and not just be silent. And this part is super important as well, because you are actually training yourself for self-defense situations, because your ability to communicate to the other person and set up boundaries and practice that when you are in class is going to give you the skill to be able to go out and do that in real life. So practicing this is actually practicing your verbal self-defense, which is pretty cool. All right, so I will give you an example of something that happened to me actually this past week. So I was, what's today, Friday? So Wednesday, I was in judo class, and at the end of judo class, we did this drill where basically you go in for a throw and you have one person standing there and another person is standing behind that person and holding on to the collar and the belt to try to drive them downward. That way, when you try to do the throw, it's basically like what is it, like an isometric hold, where you're like trying to throw them, but it's like trying to throw a super, super, super heavy person and trying to lift them and just hold them there. Now, when it was my turn to kind of like be the person that the other person was throwing, the person that was in back of me that was holding me down basically didn't have the proper form and was just holding my belt. He wasn't holding my collar and my belt. So all of the force was in my lower torso when the person was trying to hip throw me with using my arm, or shoulder throw me, using, you know, shoulder throw with his arm under my armpit. So the top half of my body was getting pulled up while the lower half of my body was getting pulled down, and I heard something pop in my lower back and I was like, oh shit. So last night I did class, and then after I was like rolling, and it was during my second round, and I was standing up and my partner was basically, you know, putting a lot of weight on my neck, trying to like do a snap down. I could feel like just my lower back just starting to be really sore, and I was just like, even though we were just 2 minutes into the roll, I was like, hey look man, like my lower back is bothering me, I gotta bounce. So that's an example of like not being afraid to stop something even in the middle of the roll. When some people would be embarrassed to stop it, they would just be like, oh, let me just suck it up until the end of the roll. Like, I have been in this game long enough to know that when your body says something to you, you need to listen right at that moment. You need to listen right at that moment. If you don't listen to your body and just override it because of, you know, being embarrassed or like not trying to disrupt what's going on, like you will sustain more injuries, and it would have caused me to not be able to train on Saturday. And so there's always a balance of like, okay, do I train now or do I save myself from getting injured and train later? Let me give you another example. All right, so let me give you, here is another example. I was in class on, was it Tuesday? All right, so I was in class on Tuesday. This was my second class, and we were doing a takedown called a single leg dump. And so my partner like had my leg and did the single leg dump, and I almost like crashed into 2 other people, and to avoid that, I basically brake falled incorrectly and landed right on my tailbone. So I was like, ouch, that hurt. Okay, like let's try this again. So, you know, I did a couple of reps and then it was his turn again. So like he did the throw and like something else happened where it was like a little bit of a bump and a bruise, and I was like, all right, this is, you know, the second time that I've got thrown and like something happened. Now, so I did my reps. Now the third time, there was a Muay Thai class going on right next to us, And so he did the single leg dump, and when I hit the ground, the back of my head landed right on a Muay Thai person's knee. So it felt like I got kneed in the back of the head, and it was like an immediate like headache, and like the back of my teeth kind of got a little numb. And I stood up and I was like thinking to myself, okay, this is like the third time that I got injured. Like obviously, you know, my partner doesn't know how to, like, either it could be happenstance, it could be a matter of like the person not seeing what's going on and, you know, not being able to accurately judge, okay, I'm going to start the takedown here and my partner is going to land here, and like mentally knowing how to do the takedown and where the person's going to land. Like if I see that my partner has demonstrated to me that I cannot perform this this technique with them safely, then my evidence is right there. So I basically said, okay, like, yeah, hey, look, I have a headache. You know, do you think you can find another partner? And I left, because I'm not going to sit there and get thrown into people's knees and be concussed. Like, what else is going to happen if I let this continue? Like, I'm trying to train here. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I wanted knees in the back of the head, I would go do Valley Tudo, where like we're just drilling here. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the all right. So let me give you another example. I remember one time when I was a white belt, I was, you know, training, and one of the other white belts, you know, he was a ginger, and of course, you know, gingers, there's an abnormally high amount of gingers in jiu-jitsu. I don't know what it is, but there's something with gingers in jiu-jitsu. So we are about to roll, and I can just tell that he is in a like competition mode of rolling. So that, you know, there's different like types of intensities of rolling. There's like flow rolling all the way to like roll to the death / rolling like you're getting prepared for a competition, which is really intense. And so when we started, like, I could just tell he was in go mode, and at that moment, like, I was not in the mood to do a competition roll. Like, I was sore, and I was just like, I told him, I was like, hey, look, Abu Dhabi, you want to like take it down a few levels? And because Abu Dhabi is like a competitive event, and like he just laughed, and like it was kind of like a joke between us going forward. Like, I would just call him Abu Dhabi. And you know, like, competition rolls have its value. Like, it's really good to be able to roll like that, but sometimes your body is going to need slightly less intense rolls because you want to be able to avoid injury. Like, it's all about a balance between getting the training in and training for longevity so you can train tomorrow. Because if I train too hard today, if I let a person, you know, practice a takedown and have me crash into things, get a concussion, and then let people, you know, practice on me with the next day with competition type rolls with my back being injured or like trying to recover, then am I going to be able to train as much that week? No. So I'm going to cut it short and go home, eat a lot, sleep a lot, and come back the next day. So these are all examples. Like, it is so important to be able to like listen to your body and like do like understand what's going on and how you feel and how your body is reacting, and be able to communicate that to your partner. And there are going to be times when things like are going to be annoying. Like, there are going to be pinches, there are going to be, you know, like break falls that like it is a full contact combat sport, so you are going to get bruises. You know, it's some things aren't going to be completely comfortable, but it's all about like, okay, is this thing repetitive? Is this thing part of the technique that needs to happen, or is it not? Is this thing going to put me out for a couple of days because of an injury, or is it not? And is my partner, you know, if I give him like feedback in a nice way, is he in a state or she in a state where it's like mindful and receptive and you can say it to them in like a chill manner? Or are you better off going, you know, if they're in a competition aggressive mindset, sometimes, yeah. Hey, Abu Dhabi, can you like take it down a few notches? is the way to go. All right, so thank you so much for watching. I'm really happy that I could explain these things to you, because it's really important to be able to communicate what your boundaries are. Like, it is absolutely okay if let's say somebody asks you to roll and you know that person is like, let's say a Division I wrestler who cannot modulate intensity, it's just either 0 or 100, like you need to know what you're getting yourself into. And if you feel 100% that day and you're like ready to roll like that, then go ahead. But if you know that you're nursing like a few little bumps and bruises, like a popped back with a sore lower back and your neck's still healing, and you know you have you have stuff going on, you got slightly concussed that week, it's like, all right, let me I'll get you next time, buddy. All right. All right, so I love you so much, and you're doing really, really, really great, and just keep on going. All right, bye.